Hello, RailCats fans, and welcome back to another edition of RailCats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Savetich, and I think the cracks are starting to show a little bit with this Gary South Shore RailCats team. Dropping 3 out of 4 to Sioux Falls, which, and granted, I think the West is a little bit loaded to a certain extent. If we just kind of look at the standings for the West, um, Lincoln has the worst record in the West at 7-3. And I think the East. I guess I take that. I guess the East is pretty much we're all kind of crumped together. And Lake Country Dot-Coms are 8-13. So I guess I maybe kind of take that back a little bit. I just know before the series start, I think Ryan Zimmerman was talking about that. Sioux Falls would have been in like third or fourth place in the East when they were dead last. Now they're not dead last thanks to the RailCats botching it. This moved them up to fourth in a playoffs position, being 10-3, and now that the RailCats are 11-12 under 500, which going into the series wasn't below 500, and they were sitting promptly, beautifully in like third place there, and now they're tied with fourth for the Cleburne Railroaders, which now 4 games back from first place, and this next series coming up is going to make or break the RailCats season again. I honestly think it does. I think this series coming up may or may not break the RailCats season. It happened last year. This next 6 games are so important. These 4 games against Sioux Falls, no matter what you want to say, yes, Sioux Falls, they just played very well. And I think the big thing is what's starting to falter with the RailCats is the errors, the pitching, the hitting not being consistent. All the things that you don't want to happen at once are happening at once for the RailCats. You go off looking at the first game here. You go up 4-0 on Victor Novo had a heck of a game. Tapia had a heck of a game. The first like 1,000,001 runs the RailCats scored were all home runs, and runs were all scored off of home runs in that first game. Nova home run, Tapia home run, Mariaga home run, Lingua home run. Like, it was just like one of those like, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome. We're gonna come in, probably take 3 out of 4, and then it just falls apart. Valdez had a rough game. Sheiks, I guess you kind of started off with Sheiks had a rough game. He just straight up had a rough game in this one. He only pitched 3 1/3 innings, gave up 10 hits, 7 runs, all earned. I think it just kind of one of those things that it faltered into Valdez, who was up to this point was pitching very well. Milwaukee, he didn't give up a run. Kane County gave up 1. Against Lake Country, gave up 1. The worst one was May 16th against Kansas City. At the beginning, I was kind of on the fence about Valdez, and I think he has established himself as a good, reliable source to use. I just think in this instance, in that first game against Sioux Falls, I think the momentum was just so backward. It was just, you know what? Hitters galore. You go out there and have a good time, and the pitching, it doesn't matter in this game. That was the first two games. Was the pitching doesn't matter, but it was just like, you shoot yourself in the foot. You come back, and I really think, I think it was that in the 9th inning, which kind of had and one more thing that I'm still scratching my head about is the horrible base running. Going back, it was the first game. It was Del Valle got thrown out at home on a play that he shouldn't even attempted to go home. I think these players, I think there's a handful of players that get the green light to go when they want to go. All right. I think that's Mariaga. I think that's Diaz, Woodworth, and Lingua. All right. Those are only four that have proven to me that they truly have the speed to do what they want and get it done. Everyone else, I don't. Castillo tries to do it. Del Valle tries to do it. Tapia tried doing it once. I listen. As much as I may be harping, and I kind of take this, I've been really enjoying listening to the Indie Ball Report. Um, and one of the guys, I'm blanking on the name right now. He did it for like 3 years, and he finally stopped. He's moving on in his career, where he's not going to be doing it as often. And don't mind the cat that's destroying my room. But he said to basically what I would do, or what a person would do watching an MLB game, how they would dissect and how they would kind of break down players a little bit and not always be positive. I like to be positive because I want these players to succeed, but you're starting to see some of these cracks. And the base running was just that one where Del Valle went. He shouldn't have went. You have to realize what the situation was. Like, I get it. I fully understand there was only one out, and then after that, Greeley struck out Lingua, grounded out the third. I get it. But if he was sitting at third and you were down by 1 run, you just had to sit there at third, and you had basically two opportunities to get like a sack movement out of it, but you had 3 tries to drive him in, right? Basically 3 tries to drive him in. And you took that away. Now, I don't know if that's so much on the third base coach or that was on him. I couldn't see the camera. The camera didn't let me see what the third base coach was doing, and that's fine because it was watching the play come about. And Del Valle got thrown out by a mile. It wasn't like it was a close play. He got thrown out by a mile. And that's the part that kills me is these, and even in today, Woodworth and Diaz got picked off. Diaz has been getting picked off a lot. I mean, I get it. You want to make something happen, but you have to be a little bit smarter sometimes. You got to understand. Now, Diaz getting thrown out today in like the first inning. All right, that's fine. But Woodworth getting thrown in the 8th inning, when you're down by run now, like you're taking your opportunities and you're shrinking them. You're making these little mistakes that are kind of showing, right? And I don't know what it is. This team seemed like it was meshing really well and things were going right. The errors weren't there. I mean, right now, I hate to do it, but Lingua, my lord, dude, the amount of error we've played in 22 games, right? We've played in 22 games, which I think it's. But he's played. My bad. He's played in 22 games, this year so far. And when we go to errors, he's played in 22 games this season. He has 12 errors, and in the last 7 days, he's had 6. So, like, those are also big opportunities that fail. I mean, I don't remember when the errors exactly happened in the first game, but there was 2 errors that Lingua should have had, or whatever the case may be. And now, a couple errors that he's gotten, I don't necessarily think should have been errors, to a certain extent. But it's like we had a solid defense and everything was solid, strapped down, awesome. We went like 4 games on error, and that was something that was impressive. Now it's just kind of like the cracks are starting to show and the errors are starting to pile up, and I'm not really sure what's going on. Like, I don't know if it's just the way the balls are being hit. They're just super hard because the pitchers are leaving balls right down the middle, or what the case may be, but something's going on and something needs to happen. Something needs to change. Going into Sioux Falls, and don't get me wrong. The Saturday night game was an outstanding, one of the better games to watch. Yeah, I was back and forth, and it was kind of one of those like, oh, here we go again. We're just gonna be back and forth, and I get it's the birdcage, and that's what everyone, that's everyone's bread and butter when they go there is, let's hit the ball as far as we can, and just let home runs be home runs, and pitching just be. It is what it is. And you know, I'm just surprised. If I'm being completely honest, I am surprised that pitchers want to go to Sioux Falls, right? I wouldn't want to go to Sioux Falls. If I was a pitcher, if I was in their shoes, if that was the only opportunity I got, okay, maybe. But then, you know, the first two games happen, I think that, and then you have the last two games, which is totally flip flopped of each other, which is the oddest thing in the world. And I didn't get to watch Sunday's game because I was at a birthday party for my niece, and it was just a busy weekend. They was doing yard work. Her grandparents came over. There was a lot of stuff that going on this week, so it was just kind of one of those busy ones that I have that which are going to happen. I, I know I'm going to like this 10-minute rant basically of what's going on, but I, you know, you have a good win out of this one. You know, Vivas struggled a little bit, but he was good in the beginning. I mean, really the run, I guess they kind of tacked on at the beginning, but they kind of slowed down after that. Um, you know, he's still coming in the groove of becoming a starting pitcher, but like, who else are you going to put out there to be a starting pitcher? I just don't know. It just seems like we're putting people in certain situations for them to fail, basically what it feels like sometimes. In the prime example of today, like I Chris Irwin had a beautiful game today. He just, you know, he gave up the one run for 3 hits, 5 2/3 innings. You know, he pitched very well going, you know, and it always seems like, you know, you pitch 5 2/3 innings and you pull them out. Like, I don't understand that. It's not like the bases were loaded and it's just like, all right, yeah, the guy's sitting on third and the guy's sitting on first, but you have to put some trust in your pitchers. He's having a heck of a game. Let him finish that portion of out and reevaluate your situation. Now, I'm not saying it could have been any different. I know Rosario is the one that gave up the one run, the one hit, which I'll get into him for a second, but I just don't understand what the fascination is. I get if it's, you know, no outs, runner on first, and you just need to change it. It's just something not working. But you already have 2 outs. Worst case scenario is you walk to the guy again, you get bases loaded, play it any play. You kind of have to instill that trust and not just pull people out, because I think that may be messing with the minds a little bit, right? You know, they say baseball is 90% mental and 10% physical. Like, that's basically how it is. You sit there a lot of times and you have to mentally prepare yourself for certain situations. And oh Lord, you okay, cat? Jesus. It's just one of those situations that you have to instill the trust in the pitcher. I want to see where further into the season where we've gone 4 or 5 times here in the rotation. I need to see the pitching going to 6 to 7 innings and saving this bullpen, because now am I starting to see some positives in this bullpen? I am. There are some positives. I know last game Matt Leon didn't have the best. He only pitched 1/3 inning, gave up 2 runs, but before that, he didn't give up a run. So you can't take the bad game that he had on the second and say, "Oh, this guy's terrible." No, he's good. I think he is a well-rounded individual. He already has 3 saves for the team. Like, he's the closer basically. I think he got put in a crappy situation in Sioux Falls, and a lot of the players kind of did. I don't think in that Sioux Falls game he should have came in the 8th to finish to bridge the gap. If I'm Lamar Rogers, Matt Leon is my closer. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's my closer. And if it's a blowout game either way and he hasn't pitched a couple games, throw him in there. I get it. Throw him an inning. It just get some work in. But I just don't think he should be a bridge guy. You know, you can look at your Jack Eisenbargers. You can look at your, Joan Valdez's. Those kind of people are what I would be looking at to be, or Jared Price is no, I think he was already used in that situation. DJ Wilkes, I get that you might want to use him as the closer, but I just think that Matt Leon is more towards that, or Ben Miller. There's other options than just throwing out Adi Nunez whenever you want. Like I don't. You have so many more options. That's what baffles me about this game, is that um, if we look at yesterday's game, okay, so Price and Nunez pitched, and Nunez had a good game yesterday. He only pitched 1/3. Okay, he pitched 1/3 of an inning. My bad. He pitched 1/3 of an inning and didn't give up anything. But we really look into it. The Milwaukee game, he gave up 5 runs, 4 earned. The other Milwaukee game, he gave up 4 runs, which were 2 earned. I get he's been put in situations that may not be the best situations, but it's just one of those. I'm gonna pull up his baseball reference because they'll give me a better idea of his like his actual in-depth stats that Point Streak won't give me necessarily. So if we're looking at this year so far, all right, he's pitched in 14.2 innings, gave up 18 hits, 20 runs, 14 earned. So there were 6 of them where he's kind of put in a crappy situation. That happens. He's given up 4 home runs in 8 appearances, which brings his home runs per 9 of 2.5, and that's what's been killing him, is the home run balls. Like today, you giving up a home run, and just ruins the momentum of the game. Now he hasn't, he's walked 9 batters, struck out 14. I'm not saying that he doesn't have potential, but I just don't think that the trust is there yet. I don't know what it is. At first I thought maybe he was just going to be the guy that just kind of came in when the game was really up or really down, and not put in this situation. Maybe Lamar Rogers is just testing the waters. I don't know. I guess I want to win games, and I don't want to test the waters necessarily. Now, I think if you already won 3 out of 4 and you're going for the sweep, okay, understandable. Or if you already won the 2 games and you just split the series, understandable. But you're trying to even the series up, and just be solely in 3rd place and being 1 game above Cleburne, right? I don't know. I'm not 100% positive. Yesterday's game didn't get anything doing. Edward Cuello, let's look here. Edward Cuello had a heck of a game. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 7 hits, only 1 run, 3 walks. He got marked with a loss. Those are one of those games where the offense just didn't pick you up. And in today's game where it should have been more than it was, and it wasn't. Nova stepping up. Nova, I think, had a huge series. I think Mariaga had a really good second game series, our second game of the series. Lingual had a good one. Woodworth, Diaz is still looking very well. His batting average, I believe now, if I just look, I got too many things pulled up now. He right now he's leading the team, he's leading the team with batting average of 328. So I think he's been very on top of things, and on base percentage of 420 or 452. I think he's just one of those players that you have to keep in the lineup. Now, do I think he's a better second baseman than Woodworth? No, I don't think he is. I think Woodworth, I just think Woodworth is really good at second. I mean, even today, you have a runner on 3rd and 2nd, and, the ball's hit to, I believe it was hit to Nova. Nova immediately kind of checked the guy. He stayed back. He threw it to 2nd. Instead of Woodworth going to 1 and letting Sioux Fall scores, he beams it home and gets the guy out at home. Like, that takes instinct, that takes time, and that just takes intelligence. And I think Woodworth is a very intelligent player. I think Diaz is a very intelligent player as well. I just think Woodworth has a little bit of a height advantage on that aspect of it, and that's just one of those things. I would like to see maybe Diaz play more at short. I'm not saying. I'm just saying sometimes the errors are starting to kill this team, and Lingual is known for causing a lot of errors, and still think you need Lingual's bat in the rotation, but maybe it's more of a competitive nature. Like, I get it that you're the rookie of the year or position rookie player of the year, but the competition breeds more competition, which breeds productive at bats, productive fielding, productive games, and I think that's what you're seeing a little bit in some situations, and I think you're seeing that at first base with Tapia, and I've really liked Tapia at first base. I know that we're really high on Sam Abbott, and would like to see his bat in the lineup more. Yeah, but who you gonna take out? That isn't, you know, you can put him at DH, but who are you gonna take out then at that point? I get the rotation a little bit. I think I would like to see a little bit more rotation at catcher with Thomas Greeley and Hernandez. I'm not saying that their batting averages are only 0.010% off points off of each other, but I'm just saying Abbott's at a 185. Now, he hasn't played in a lot of games, I get it, but who else are you going to take out of this lineup? I mean, Diaz, Castillo are only ones in the threes, but you have Mariaga, Nova, Del Valle, Lingual, and Woodworth all above 250 or at 250. I just don't know who you're taking. I just think with Tapia being a naturally left-handed throwing player, he's able to get a lot more balls that a right-handed first baseman may not be able to get. And you're like, oh, Sam Abbott bats left, but he throws right. So it's just one of those things that I like the guy. I like Sam Abbott. I think he's a really good player to a certain extent, but he just hasn't been. I don't know if he hasn't proven himself this year. I just don't think when he has his opportunities, they're there to a certain extent. Like, yeah, he's got one home run this year at on 27 at bats. Like I said, he's only played in 9 games. Small little sample size that you're going to get out of it, but just kind of comparing it to Tapia, who has 87 at bats but has 5 home runs. Like, maybe they would even out at the end, but I'm just the RBIs and everything else and so on and so forth is just a big thing in my eyes a little bit with that. But that could just be me being me, and just that's how I see it. But going into the schedule here, against Cleburne, looking at what they've coming off of a bit of a cold spell, to a certain extent. They started out against Sioux Falls and took 3 out of 4 on that one. Split with Milwaukee. Well, not split. They won 4 out of 2 against Milwaukee, and then Chicago came in and was just like, all right, wipe them out of the building, their own building. And then they took 3 out of 4 of Sioux City, and then Kansas City came in or didn't come in. Cleburne went to Kansas City and wiped them up. So this is a big opportunity for the RailCats to really gain some ground. I mean, right now they're sitting at 5th, tied with Cleburne. This is the time where you put your big boy pants on and you figure out how to win games. You have to play smart, error-free, and be able to outcoach your competition a little bit here. All right, understand the situation that we're in. I didn't see enough from the team to really feel comfortable about the rest of the season. This is the one thing that I was fearful of. This is why it was a good thing they kind of started out a little bit hot at the beginning of the season, because if they started out cold and they were still cold, they would be in with Lake Country, and Lake Country is only 2 games back from the RailCats, and that was something that was unexpected. I just think they just need to find their groove again. They need to find that pitching again. I think starting pitching, if they're having a good game, they need to stay in a little bit longer, and we need to use the arms when it's productive to use them, and not arms that haven't proven themselves yet. I'm just looking at Nunez right now because that's the only one that really hasn't proven himself. I guess there's one more player that I haven't gotten to for the RailCats in this one is going to be Jesus Rosario. Let me see if I can try and real quick pull all of his stuff up. Let me just go to Baseball Reference real quick. Thank you. Copy and paste. Looking at Jesus Rosario's numbers, I was like, why? Went from the Pioneer League to the Frontier League, and looking at his ERA of 19.47 at 12.52, that's in 23 and 14 innings. He gave up quite a bit of home runs last year at 7 in 23 innings, which gave him 2.7 home runs per inning if he were to pitch that many. Strikeouts to walk ratio is not very good. Last year with Empire State, 32 walks, or 27 walks, 27 strikeouts. The year before in the Pioneer League with Billings, 24 walks, 10 strikeouts, 14 hit. A wild guy, as I gotta say. Now he came in today, and he pitched pretty good today. He only pitched in 1/3 inning. He can get up in the 90s, so I think that the speed is what's kind of that situation. He was kind of put in a crappy situation to a certain extent. Runner on first and second, or first and third, and he gives up a hit. And it wasn't like he had 2 strikes a ball and Archibald just hit the ball, and it just something like that, and that happens. I think he has the potential. We just have to see. He's just one of those guys that's unproven. I think this was kind of the game to kind of see if he could prove himself, and I would say to a certain extent he did. I just think that we're setting up certain players to fail, and I just don't want to see that. Because these players can be fragile to a certain extent, and I don't want that to happen and keep, now, with all this being said, I would want to be proven wrong. That's the whole point, is I like to be proven wrong. If someone pointed at me and said, you're wrong, good. If I'm wrong, then something good's happening, right? If I keep everyone so high on this pedestal and it's not working, and someone's looking at me and go, well, why is this? Then I'm wrong for saying that. I would rather a player come up to me and go, you're wrong, and then go prove themselves, and then my mind would change. But right now, my mind went from, oh, this RailCat team, watch out, to I'm having deja vu of last year, and I don't want that to happen. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want that. So big series coming up against Cleburne. There probably won't be any podcast just because I'll be at the games. I'm going to every game except I think the Sunday game. The Sunday game, I'll probably have a podcast after that, just kind of taking all 6 games and kind of clumping them together, and having a podcast of the next series that comes out, or whatever the case may be. Just being at all the games and me having to be at work either at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and not getting home until later, there's just no room to do it. So yeah, if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can find RailCats Talk on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. That's about it for right now. I'm still working on trying to get it to other platforms, but I think YouTube is majority of where I get most of my viewers, which is fine. YouTube's quick and easy, upload, good to go on that aspect of it. But yeah, like I said, I'm your host, Kyle Svedich. I want you to enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this. And as always, go Cats.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Wrap this one up in green and white.